What's up, guys, and welcome to Work Wednesday. I actually have brewed my own coffee today, so I don't have Starbucks. And today I am going to talk about the payment protection program, but more appropriately, how to get it forgiven. So I've, in this video up here, gone over the payment protection program and reasons you should do it and what it is. I'm going to recap on that a little bit, but really you want to go to this video to get all of the information. Today is going to be more about the forgiveness side of it. And I'm going to break it into two videos because I don't have all the details yet, so I'm going to give you what I do know, and then next week finish up everything else. So let's get started. What the payment protection program is. So if you own your own business, or if you are a musician, or if you're a sole proprietor, or whatever, this could apply to everyone. So I'm going to talk mainly about musicians because that's what I am. But if you're watching this video because you stumbled across it because you Googled PPP and that's what popped up, check it out because it applies to you too if you own your own company. So you could either have an LLC or you could not have an LLC. You could just be using your own Social Security, be a sole proprietor. Sorry, get a little tongue dyslexia today. And you can basically take out what's called the Payment Protection Program loan, which becomes a grant as long as you use the money correctly. Meaning, as long as you do something very simple and just pay the people that are supposed to be paid, including yourself, everything is forgiven. So here's how it works. And these are the reasons you should do it real quick. So to start off, the Payment Protection Program was put out by the SBA loan program that was part of a stimulus package that came out in the beginning of 2020. Then they did it again at the end of 2020, and they've just put out a third one that starts now, soon. So my band has taken advantage of the first one. I personally have taken advantage of the second one, and I plan on taking advantage of the third one. And these are the reasons why. What it is it comes out first as a loan. They ask how much you made over a 3-month period. You total that amount in the previous year, or how much your business made that needed to pay people. So if you were a sole proprietor and the money just went to you, it's how much you made. Gross income on your taxes divided by 4. You get the 3-month period, you write that number down, and then they give you a loan for that number. If you had a company with a lot of employees, and this is a key factor, employees, they have to be working for your company. They cannot be sole proprietors. They cannot be contractors. Meaning, if you own a band, you're the band leader, and you take out money, it can't be the money that your band took in if you contract all of your players. Meaning, if everyone who works for you is an independent contractor, a 1099, right? So you can only take out, in that case, enough money to pay your salary because you own the band, right? This is a big thing that a couple people slipped up on. It's not the end of the world if they slipped up, and I'll give you the reasons why in a minute. But essentially, keep that in mind. You have to be paying salaries of people that work for that company. And if you're the only person because you're a gigging musician, then you have to pay your salary. Now they're going to do this for a third time, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it as a sole proprietor because in 2019, that's what I was. I was working for a band, well, my band. I was working for them, paid as an independent contractor. So I will be doing it again based off of my taxes in 2019. As long as I keep that money and use it for normal everyday stuff, paying bills, paying taxes, buying food, all of that stuff, and it stays in my account as if it was my salary, we're good. Because that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to replace your salary because you weren't making a salary this year, or last year. So as long as you treat it like that, like you just did your gigs, you got paid, you can still buy stuff the way that you normally would have. Spending can stay similar to how you would have spent when you were gigging or while your business was open. Just don't go do anything that you normally wouldn't have done, like buy a Porsche, unless you buy a Porsche for your business every year. Now, you only have to use 70% for that, for salaries. So that other 30 is kind of playable. So if you're in one of those scenarios where you already took out the loan and you took out too much because you do have independent contractors, chances are, as long as it's around that 70%, you could probably make the numbers look like you still paid everything to salaries, and then you use that extra 30 for other things like paying those independent contractors, keeping those relationships solid. I'm sure there's arguments that can be made, although it's hard to argue with the government because you never actually talk to anyone. So don't just go off my word on that. These are just, at this point, speculation. I'm going to know more next week when I actually have had meetings with tax people instead of just doing all the reading myself. Of course, I'm not a certified CPK, so you would want to get one of those. And so here we go towards forgiveness. My recommendation to you, get a CPK, get someone who's good with running your taxes for you. Don't try and do it yourself, and have them look at your finances, have them look at your bank account, and they can coach you through it. Also, if you've just done what I suggested, meaning you took that money as a salary, then everything should look fine anyway. They'll look at your bank account and say like, oh, it looks just like last year. You made that much money during these 3 months. Cool, you're good. We'll put that in your taxes. Everything will be forgiven. You won't owe the money back, right? That's what you're going for. Now, here is, and I'll give you guys more breakdown next week when I've actually had the meeting as far as exact, like how you go through it. You could, of course, try and download this form right here and do it yourself. Although if you look, there's a lot of stuff going on here that you may not know the answers to. And this is where having a CPK really comes in handy, because they know exactly what line to put where and what's going on with your taxes to make everything look like it sat in the right place for the right amount of time. So do yourself a favor. It might cost you $400 or $500 to hire a CPK. Just do it, because it's going to save you thousands. Anyway, now let's go down the scenario that for some weird reason you've done everything right and the government still said, no, sorry. I don't see this happening, because they've set aside billions and billions and billions of dollars to cover all of these things, and it would be robbery if they just decided they wouldn't do it for everyone. So you're probably going to be just fine. But let's say for the scenario, just for the argument's sake, you aren't, and you end up having to pay that 1% interest rate. Let's look at inflation. I have Googled inflation over the last 30 years, and it actually gave me a graph that shows it over the last 100 years, but I don't need that much information to know that inflation has gone up. This last column over here on the right, which might be covered by my camera, but that's the average. This is December, this is November, blah, 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 as you go to the left. Then the average is this last column on the far right, and you can see by just glancing down it, the average inflation is around 2%, right? It's maybe a little bit less than 2%, but it's around 2%. And sometimes way over. That's about 4% in 2008, 3% in 2007, 3% in 2006, 3% in 2005. So a decade ago, it was going up a lot more. Recently, inflation's not gone up as much, which is great. That means they haven't been printing a lot of money. Now, here's how inflation works. They have been printing a lot of money because of stimulus. Chances are inflation is going to go up above 2%. But if it doesn't, if it stays at the 2% average that it's been at for the last decade, a 1% loan is not a bad thing. And here's how that works. You're borrowing money from a future self where money is worth less. So you're actually saving money on your loan. Meaning, if you're borrowing $100 at a 1% interest rate, you're actually only paying back $95 of that $100 for a 5-year loan. 5 years from now, when that loan hits its end and you've paid it all off, inflation would have made that $100 only worth $90, meaning 2% a year for 5 years is $10 of $100, right? So 5 years from now, that $100 is only worth $90. So if you're paying 1% interest, you're only paying back $95 of that $100. Now, before you comment like, no, you have to pay back the full amount plus the interest, what I'm saying is your money's not worth the same. That $100 is not worth $100 5 years from now, but it's worth it right now. So there's nothing wrong with that loan. And this is responsible lending. I'm not telling you to go borrow a whole bunch of money and go gamble it in the stock market. That's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm just saying if you need the money now, it's worth more right now than it's going to be worth 5 years from now. So who cares if you borrow from future self? If you need to borrow from future self at 1% because it's actually a good deal. If you need math lessons, you can write me. No, I'm just kidding. Inflation's a weird one with interest rates. I'm happy to talk about it more, but essentially anything below a 2% interest rate is a great deal because interest goes up 2% every year, meaning that it's free money because you're paying 2% in a year, but it goes up 2% in a year. So you're not paying anything. You're getting 0%. You're borrowing money that you get to pay back at the exact same percent. This is 1%. So it's even better. You're actually making 1% on the whole deal. Of course, if you get forgiven, you're making all of the money. So try for that. But long story short, that's today's Work Wednesday. I'm going to actually give you details on the forgiveness side of it before everybody starts dropping hate bombs. Make sure to do the math, check my math, and then maybe not write that I'm wrong about the interest in borrowing money. I've done a lot of research on it, and I've actually started businesses doing it. So I kind of know a little bit of what I'm talking about. That being said, I'm not a guru, and I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying don't hate yourself if you have to pay back this loan at a 1% interest rate, because if you did the right stuff with that money, meaning you didn't just gamble it all away, it's the same money you would have had anyway, and then some. And that's your Work Wednesday. I'll see you next week.